Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final episode of the podcast. We're done. We're rage quitting. We're out. Building Minnesota RØKKRs, but nice knowing you. Peace. I'm just kidding. We'll get into all that really soon. My name is Ashley, a.k.a. Midnight Director of Content here for RØKKR and Version 1. I got my duo. Hold on one second, guys. What is going on? I'm hearing some type of audio feedback here of myself.
I can hear you.
That's me messing with you because you're kicking me off the podcast.
No, I'm not sure where I'm even hearing this from. Oh, okay. One second. All right. Give me like 2 minutes. My computer has my voice coming through it, and I will not be able to do the podcast with it. This is how we go out of Building Minnesota RØKKR, a blaze of technical difficulty glory because of me, Ashley. But Brett, I'll let you give the intro. Shannon, it's nothing you're doing. I just have it open on a different computer over on the other side of the room. So, Brett, why don't you give yourself an intro and intro both the guys here, and I'm gonna go shut my laptop. And
yeah. So it's nice that for the last episode, Ashley's putting me on the spot to play host for a little while. I think she's trolling me a little bit. But yeah, over the course of the episode, we'll share some exciting news about what's coming ahead for our podcast plans, both how this podcast is evolving and some other things that are coming up. So looks like she got back into her seat. So if she wants to take the helm back, she can.
Yeah,
or
dude,
not? Yeah, all right.
I just have to tell y'all what just happened. So I have my MacBook on sleep mode. I don't even remember opening the RØKKR YouTube, but I'm Noti Gang, so I don't know. It just clicked me, and all of a sudden I can hear really loud on my laptop the other side of the room. My voice, I was like, oh my goodness. Go figure. All the testing in the world couldn't have found that until we went live. So anyway, Brett, I'm assuming you introed IKON, which you've been here before.
Nope, I just talked for a minute or two, so you go ahead with those intros.
Perfect. They don't even know what's going on. You're amazing. IKON is back. We've had IKON on to break down some things on game days during our watch parties, and he's been on the podcast a couple times. And now we have Kingdom Soldier, the legend, the long-time member in the Call of Duty community. And we're here today because we're doing a little bit of a transition episode. We have gotten together behind the scenes. We've created a council, and we've effectively voted Brett Diamond off of the island. Goodbye, the tribe has spoken. I'm just kidding. This will be the final version of this podcast as you know it. We are going to rebrand this podcast, and we could talk a little bit about why. But mostly, I just wanted to kind of start off with, the new podcast will be me. Obviously, you're not getting rid of me for sure. I ain't gonna. I'll be here every week. We will have IKON on as a co-host. We're all co-hosts for each other. There's no power dynamic. We're all equal. And then we got Kingdom Soldier will also be hosting the podcast with me. And then we plan to have a rotating seat or two to have on guests from within the Call of Duty community, whether it's CDL, maybe we have on a YouTuber here and there. We kind of get into it. It will be CDL focused. It will obviously still be RØKKR focused, but we wanted to make something a little bit more just kind of maybe broadly appealing. Brett, when we started this podcast, Building Minnesota RØKKR, we started, it was back in the day when we worked, from your office in the Minnesota Vikings facility. We were sneaking conference rooms there, trying to shoot the podcast, get it done. And it was really while we were building the team.
Yeah, we should have done a montage of all the places we did that podcast, because there were a couple different offices at the Vikings, and of course the offices at WeWork, a couple different spaces there.
We had the room.
Yeah, we had the little room studio that we made, but before that we were just jumping into different conference rooms at WeWork every week. So that was a little nomadic existence in 2019 for the podcast. But.
It was a grind. And I know what you guys are thinking. You're like, wow, that's rich. They're kicking off Brett. What the heck gives? Brett is the COO here at RØKKR and Version 1. He's got a lot of stuff to do, and I really have enjoyed having his insight here on the podcast, hearing his thoughts on things, because Brett approaches it from, he's worked in traditional sports for a majority of his professional career. So he brings in a lot of questions and an outside dynamic that I think is really refreshing for a Call of Duty themed podcast. But what we're doing instead is we're going to put Brett's still going to be doing a podcast. It's just not going to be this one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Brett. I don't know if you want to allude to any more what your plans.
Yeah, we'll tease it a little bit. So in the coming weeks, alongside the new podcast that Ashley just mentioned, I, along with Annie Scott Riley, our head of marketing and creative, will be creating a more business-focused podcast that will be more on the version 1 channels than the Rocker channels, but we will make sure everybody knows where to find us. So we will we'll share some news about the organization as we go, but also mostly focused on having guests from the business side of the esports industry on a regular basis. So stay tuned for more details. We're pretty excited about how both of the podcasts are evolving, and more content to come throughout 2021.
Yes, you heard that. 2 podcasts instead of 1. You thought we were just canceling all of them. No, we're splitting it in 2. It seemed like the right time, as I kind of, alluded to earlier. It started with us like literally building a team. Like it was just, I was a second employee here behind Brett. We started this thing. We kicked it off. We got the roster. We went through the first season and all of the challenges that proved. Not only is it hard to just come in fresh into a league, but then you have a global pandemic on top of that, wild times. So it was really about like building the staff, building the team, building those things. And well, I do think that's very informative and really cool. And there's a ton of you guys that give us comments, whether it's live in the chat, comments after, tweeting me like, yo, love the podcast. Like those types of things don't go unnoticed. So we know that there's like a demand for that type of information. And I think we can still have some of that here in this podcast, but I think some of that could also live, in the business focused podcast that Brett is planning to do. And we do just have a lot of other cool content that will keep you guys, in the know of what's going on within the organization, whether that's an AMA on Reddit, a quick video that goes out, or just having on different guests on our podcast. So our plans for the future, IKON, Kingdom, we're taking over. There's a few other great podcasts in the CDL space.
Oh, there's lots, yeah.
There's lots of good ones. But we're gonna make our own. It's gonna be called The Rotation. I like that. It's got like an around the horn vibe. You rotate in hard point. Like there's a thing going there. I can picture us giving hot takes on a rotation about certain things. I can already picture like so many segments for that. So I'm just really excited to get into that. So now that I've kind of laid the context, would like to get to know IKON and Kingdom a little bit more. Just introduce you guys to the audience, and then let's talk COD, because there's a lot that's just been happening.
Oh yeah.
Kingdom, you're the newest here, so let's have you go first. Like, who are you? Where you from? Like, how long have you been in the scene, and what's your interest in doing a podcast like this?
Hello to all you guys in the chat. I'm currently an influencer manager for an energy brand, and that has kept me in the gaming community. But I've been in COD for about 9 years. I've been talking about
you for forever. Go first.
Yeah, it's been a minute. I've been talking about Call of Duty since Optic Midnight got started back in the day, when Ashley was with them. And I've followed Call of Duty in every iteration, all the growth that we've had. I used to have my own podcast, and we've been on air together before, but not here.
Funny story. I've obviously known Kingdom for a long time. Like he just said, I've known him forever, and then he asked me to be on his podcast, and IKON was one of the co-hosts there, and like. We should go back and like listen to that episode. Like we already have like a natural conversational chemistry. I remember just being like, man, these guys are so fun to talk COD with. Like IKON and Kingdom, they know what the hell they're talking about. It's good times, it's good vibes. So now we've kind of come full circle, right? We just started like, chatting one day, and now we're starting a new thing together.
Yep. And I'm really excited about what's happening in Call of Duty right now. We were talking, me and IKON were talking before the podcast, and I think we're going to see some of the best viewership we've ever had. What I'm seeing from pro players content wise is what makes me believe that, because they're already driving views to YouTube. So they're going to drive more views to the CDL whenever they stream. And so seeing all of that action, I haven't seen that I used to have a show that I did way back in the day called Best Call of Duty Videos. And every week I would put out my favorite videos. I had hundreds to choose from back then because there were so many teams making content. And I feel like we're back at that place where, like I was telling IKON, I can't even keep up anymore. I try to watch every podcast. I try to watch all the content from all of the guys. A lot of guys on the rocker putting out content, like, and keeping up is difficult. And so I'm excited for this year of Call of Duty. I think the change to 4v4, I'm sure we'll talk about some of this, is going to help as well. From what I've seen and what I saw at the kickoff, I mean, it was better viewership than last year's kickoff. So, I mean, I think things are looking up.
We'll get into viewership, I'm sure, but oh my gosh, dude, that was really, really good indicator. IKON, do you want to go ahead, give yourself a little intro, and then maybe we can talk about the kickoff event a little more, how it went from our POV, not only with the team playing, but just, everything kind of Kingdom just alluded to?
Yeah, sure. So I've been on a couple times before, obviously. I really just analyze gameplay. So I check out what teams are doing. I break it down, upload it, bring up little maps so people can see what's going on. So more of like an analytical approach to like who's playing well, who's not playing well, what's happening in the scene, power rankings and all that sort of stuff. So I think I bring more of like an analytical approach. But like Kingdom was talking about viewership, the thing that I noticed over the weekend was how tight all the matches were. It seems like, since we went to 4v4 and, with Treyarch taking over, it just seems like all these matches, like you try to predict who's going to win. But like, even with like Florida and Atlanta, everybody just expects, Atlanta's going to come out. They're stacked at every position and then they lose to Florida. I mean, it's just, I don't know. The biggest thing, obviously, the viewership is great and Nate Shot coming in and 100 Thieves and everything seems to be going up. But I'm just excited to watch a brand of Call of Duty that seems like it's going to be so much more competitive than it was last year.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brett. Did you unmute?
No, I was just going to add, you both talked about the viewership, and that was one of the things that really blew me away about the weekend was, and maybe this is too much of a traditional sports mindset, but you figure it's the preseason, the viewership might be down a little bit. But it was, you both said it, right? It was higher in most cases. I haven't seen like the official numbers, but just from looking at the numbers live when it was happening, like, I think most matches were exceeding what you saw as averages during the season. I mean, we had between 67 and 70,000 viewers. And off the top of my head, I think that we didn't have any matches outside of the playoffs and maybe those finals matches against Dallas last year that were in that range. So that we might have beat, any match that we didn't play Chicago or the playoffs in terms of viewership compared to last year. So it's off to a good start and a lot of momentum. It's exciting.
It's a really good indicator. I'm going to come out and say it. This is my hot take of the day. This will be the best competitive Call of Duty since Black Ops 2. It will even surpass Black Ops 3. If we get a little bit better maps, which, they added Raid. Who knows what else they're going to add, right? Thought I saw please stand off Vondahar. Please. I will create a shrine of Vondahar. I do already kind of have one, but I'll make it even better. I will pray to all that stuff. Please. Sorry, stand up in the game. It's almost like I had high expectations coming into this Call of Duty this year. Treyarch, very reputable, very much a competitively minded developer. Can't say so much for last year with Infinity Ward. They just seem to have different priorities, and competitive isn't one of them, which is okay, but it also sucks for us. So now we're in good hands, and I'm so genuinely excited for this year's competitive game. You also have a brand new lineup on Minnesota RØKKR. I mean, I've gassed those guys up so much, so maybe y'all don't want to hear it again. Maybe we'll just get into the analysis from this weekend instead. But I'm genuinely so excited for this season. IKON, what are you thinking? Like, are you guys, and Kingdom too, are you guys like genuinely optimistic for the competitive season? Are there things you think, hey, it'd be better if, it was like this? Like, what's your guys' take so far?
I know just from I'm always trying to place these teams where I think that they are, just so that I kind of have an idea whenever I want to make a video or talk about it on a podcast or something like that. And it feels like right now, to me, there's like one or two teams you might be able to say are like 1 and 2, maybe 1 or 2 are like 11, 12, and everybody else is just in the middle. Like I don't have any idea where to place anybody in that regards. So in terms of like the competitiveness, like we talked about it I mentioned it a little bit with like Atlanta, but like Paris, London, super close. Your guys match up with Toronto on that kickoff weekend. I mean,
we're just trying to make them think they could win. I don't know. We're just trying to keep
right.
viewership up. We're trying to pump it up.
Get the viewership. Yep.
Yeah.
How about that?
But yeah, I mean, the middle maps of your matchup with Toronto weren't really all that close, but like the hard point at the beginning came down to one rotation, one team kill, and you guys tried to flank. It just didn't work out that way, so you lost that first map by 6. And then it goes to the search and destroy, which was the last map, and you guys are up. It's going well. Then all of a sudden, they start to creep back. Toronto makes it close. It's 5-5. You had to clutch up. And it just seems like
that scared me.
Yeah, absolutely. It brings the intensity for sure. I don't know. I just feel like that's going to happen in the majority of our maps. So trying to say, prediction, who's going to be in the finals of this major or that, I just think it's going to be so tough. Right now, I honestly couldn't tell you.
For me, I think like every match was 5 went to game 5 except for
pretty much, yeah,
the 2 that everybody expected to be a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Dallas, New York, everybody kind of expected a 3-0 because of the team change and everything. Shout out to Zuma. Hope everything, gets better. But I think the Chicago match was a little disappointing. I think it was like it was the most viewed, but it was the fastest. It was like the shortest match. It was the most seemingly one-sided. I think that I agree with IKON. I remember last year it was like a clear 4 up top at the beginning, and then there was like this middle 4, and then it was kind of like a bottom 4. This year seems a little bit different, where it's kind of like, I still think, I'll just, and we'll talk about it, but I still think there are 4 teams in my mind that are still kind of up there at the top, and there's going to be other teams chasing. I would say 3 for sure, but we're going a lot off of last year, and this game is different. I was watching Crowder's podcast, and he was talking about how they have to change the way they play. Like, they have to change the way they practice. They have to change the way they prepare, because even though everybody says this was just an exhibition, just a show match, it wasn't. It was the first impression of your team for hundreds of thousands of people. And so I think everybody wanted to win this weekend. Dallas wasn't excited last year. Like, well, we know we're better, even though we got smoked twice at the kickoff, I don't think, and maybe that fueled their passion that got them the champs last year and, the most dubs. And so I think you're going to see some changes from some of these teams, and they're going to come out different. I don't think nobody's going to say Atlanta's not in the top 3 in the league based on just raw talent and skill alone. That's not a team anybody wants to see on the sticks, And so I think, though, that the kickoff was really great. I thought the casting was great, although I missed Maven and Merc. I hope that they're back for the future. But I thought the casting was really good. I thought the overall production was great. I remember last year when we started, there was all these questions about how do we follow domination, and it's so confusing, and people were complaining about the overlay. And this year seems like the CDL has listened, which is what Treyarch does with their games, but it seems like the CDL themselves listened, and they've made a better viewing experience. So overall, I think viewership is just going to continue to climb. Competitively, I mean, not to sound like a broken wheel or whatever, I do wish there was some snipers in S&D.
Yeah, dude. Well, listen, that's on my internal topic list of like, what the heck, bro?
Well, we saw no snipers, like none. And for every single Call of Duty title has had competitively snipers in it. And I can understand not having smokes because they're one-sided or whatever, and that maybe can somehow change. I don't know if Treyarch can change that, but no snipers. Like, even like on Checkmate, there was times where like Formal sitting at the very back, pre-aiming with whatever AR he's using, and it's like my brain wanted to see that as a sniper. It wanted to see him get a pick, just somebody running across and him just pick him off, because those are exciting plays. I mean, Simp became almost famous off of a sniper play that he made, in Black Ops 4. So I think that, but I do think the kickoff went really well. I thought it garnered the viewership that the league wanted. I felt like people were fans of their teams. People were representing who they wanted to win. Every match was interesting. And that's one thing that all of you guys have done. I mean, I can't imagine Roster Mania and all the changes and everything, but we've landed in a place where almost any team can beat any team. And so I think that's a great place for our esport. I watch a lot of NBA, and it's like sometimes I don't watch Lakers games because I'm like, yeah, that's a W. I don't even need to, and then I look back, I'm like, oh, LeBron had 42. Great. And so I'll go watch the highlights. But I thought that all of the matches were worth watching. And even with some of the roster stuff we're hearing now with Parasite potentially going to London, like there's always these storylines in COD that make it amazing. And so I think this is going to be a phenomenal year. Your Black Ops 2 comment, I would love to happen. I mean, honestly.
Yes, I'm jumping the gun 100%. Like, it's been come on, Ashley, it's preseason, but I'm telling you, bro, I see it. I feel it in my bones. It's going to be the best competitive COD since Black Ops. If they fix the sniper things, just to give you guys some context for those that don't know, none of the pro players this weekend, wanted to use sniper rifles. It's not in the rules or anything. They just kind of went rogue and they're like, we're not using that because there's an issue right now with the smokes. I think it's a bug in the game. I don't think it's designed this way, but there's an issue with players and how they can see through the smoke while being in it. Obviously, that is not how it should happen. And so I think they GA'd smokes because it's a glitch, and obviously you want to keep glitches out of competitive until they fix it. But because of no smokes, there was no way to balance the snipers in search and destroy, and that was creating and I guess it's funny because I see such a discrepancy between, I follow a lot of YouTubers, obviously, I'm from sniper YouTube back in the day. That's where I was born. You know that, Kingdom. You've been watching.
Yep.
Yeah, you know the deal. But they're all saying the game is too hard to snipe on because of, skill-based matchmaking or how fast you can shoot with them or whatever all the other guns are better, aim assist, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then you have competitive, it's way too easy, especially with no smokes. This is too easy. We're done with it. So they're done with snipers for now. Hopefully this bug gets fixed. Hopefully we see snipers back in competitive search and destroy, because I, like you, it made me sad. I'm looking at these long lines of sight. Formal should be sniping. Attached should have a sniper in his hand. I want to see the plays, man. I want to see what's going on. And I'm hoping they fix it. So we'll see how that goes. Brett, I have a question for you. So I know, because you mentioned, traditional sports background, preseason's whatever. But I mean, we saw such a positive turnout from the fans in our Discord, positivity on the Twitter timeline about preseason. So just or kickoff event, whatever, they're not going to call it preseason, but the kickoff weekend, talk a little bit about why are people so revved up? Is it just it's been too long since they've seen our team play? Or maybe I guess we do have a new team to premiere. What do you think is attributed to people being that excited when, traditionally it's preseason, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, well, first of all, the CDL website, there's a tab that refers to it as preseason, so I think it's okay to call it that.
There we go.
Yeah, if you compare it, it's really pretty similar, right? If you work in traditional sports for a traditional sports team, you tend to look at the preseason as it's a time for the fans to get amped up. You want to win your home games because you've got the hometown crowd and you want to put on a good show for them. And you sort of view the road games as, competitively, you probably approach it the same way no matter what, but from a business and a marketing standpoint, you want to perform in front of the hometown fans. Obviously for us, every week is the same, especially in the online environment. But there's no question it was awesome to see the hype from fans in the Discord watch party on Twitter. And look, if we had lost that map 11, they certainly would not have been as hyped. My guess is the players and the coaches would have been disappointed, but it wouldn't have fundamentally changed how they look at it, right? They probably used those matches to test some new strategies to do it in an environment that the stakes are a little bit higher, but there's no money on the line. There's no points on the line. That's just a reality of it. But you always want to win, right? And we've got some good buzz and good momentum that we would not have had if we had lost, if that map 11 had gone differently. So we'll ride that for, until the next match. But if we don't beat Thieves in that first match of the season, nobody's gonna care that we won the preseason kickoff classic against Toronto.
I still do, man. That's a battle for the North, and we won it again, baby. Get out here, I'm just kidding. I do get hype about that stuff. I mean, you could tell how they made the matches. They tried to make them for the most, buzz or rivalry sake. But I think it's whack when the players are like you saw Clayster, tweet after like, oh yeah, lost the scrim or whatever he said. I'm probably misquoting him. Sorry, Clay. But, he was real nonchalant about it. Like, yeah, it doesn't count. It is what it is. And I get it. They're dealing with a new lineup and trying to get adjusted. And so they probably don't put a lot of stock into that matchup. But I mean, from a fan perspective, I understand the players and coaches are probably looking at it like, yeah, well, we want to win, but if we don't, who cares? I care, bro. I care. I'm the number one, rock fan, right? Like, I want to see us win. And for me particularly, and I want to ask you guys, this is my next question, I haven't gotten to see our team play for months. They stopped streaming. I don't know what they're looking like. I talk to Jake all the time, assistant coach, shout out reppin'. I talk to him. I'm like, how are scrims going? How are scrims? He tells me the map counts and the scores. And I'm like, yeah, I'm getting into it. But I still can't see it. And I was texting the coaches, during the series, or I think it was after it. I was texting them, the difference in gameplay that I saw with the guys was vastly improved from the last time I had seen them. The way that they're working together in hardpoint, breaking things, rotating things. S&D was clinical, right? They were really, you could tell they were positioning themselves in ways that made sense and that, were, complementary to one another. So I thought we looked good. I'm glad we won. Too close for comfort. Yeah, but let's just say it was for the views. It was for that extra viewership. But IKON, what did you think of the first match? I know you do analyze a lot of scrim gameplay. You're only able to see who streams, right? So it's a lot of optic and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But what was your take on, not just Rocker, but want to hear your feedback on Rocker, but just everyone you saw, were there any surprises this weekend out of other teams that you thought might go a different way?
Yeah, well, first of all, just kind of piggybacking on, the excitement leading into this season with the Discord and the question you asked, Brett, I think a big thing is just the fact that the off season is so long. It feels like it's been so long since we've watched competitive COD. So even though people are streaming and you can watch some scrims, get some footage, it's not the same as a real broadcast with a booth and casters and actually going through each. And the other part about that, and I wanted to kind of touch on this when I got to you guys, is that this was the first time that we actually got to see how these teams perform in Search and Destroy. Because, if it's a 5-map match, we don't have any idea, even somebody like me that watches a ton of scrims, I don't have any idea how Search is going to go. So I don't know how 40% of this is going to end up. So with you guys, you came out, against Toronto and you lost the hard points. And normally that's not a great recipe for winning a match, but you guys seem to be Minnesota seems to be a really good team in Search and Destroy. You take the control. Now you end up winning that match. So right now, overall as a whole, there's a lot that's really unknown, even with watching Chicago scrim, they'll scrim Dallas and just blow them out. The last time they scrimmed Dallas, they won map count 4-1. And then yesterday they scrimmed Paris and they lost map count 1-4. So it's you just until you start to see in a competitive environment and you start to see, okay, this team is 5-1 on this map and this team, oh, wait a second, Toronto last year. Toronto to start the year last year, they were one of the best Search and Destroy teams, despite the fact that people didn't really expect much out of them. So they were great at Search and Destroy. They started to build on it towards the end of the year. Toronto won their home series and then made a run in the playoffs. So it's just one of those things that we're at the point in the game because of the fact it's a brand new game. Teams are brand new. We don't really have a lot of stats under our sleeves. We just don't really know. I mean, like we kind of talked about earlier, we could see how, okay, maybe these are some of the top couple teams and maybe these teams won't do great, but there's a collection of, if you were to tell me 6 months from now that any of 8 or 9 teams ended up winning champs, I wouldn't be shocked at all. Even the last time I was on your podcast, so the last time that we did this, I told you guys we were talking about a trophy case and where will they go and stuff. I even predicted that by the end of this year, I really do think you guys are going to have some hardware in there. I just think, I think your team, you pulled off the heist this offseason. The players that you got, they're super consistent. They're dedicated to the grind. They're insanely talented. Even so just going by like KD's, everybody was over 1.0 except for accuracy, but accuracy made a ton of plays in search and destroy. And that's stuff that doesn't come up on like, KD charts, but Attach is still out there killing it. He had like a 1.13.
He played insane. Like all of our guys played well, but Attach, like, jeez, bro, I had high expectations for him already. And the coach has been telling me like, yeah, dude, Dylan is nasty at this game. And I'm like, yeah, cool. Bro, he's nasty at the game. It's crazy.
Yep. Yes, I mean, you have him. Major Maniac played great. Priesta had a good weekend, and you never know. I mean, Priesta could come out and just drop a 1.6 in any match. I mean, he's that talented. You never know when he's going to pop off. So, yeah, I mean, overall, the weekend was great. I love the fact that there were so many 3-2s. You saw Seattle and LAG. You see both of them be competitive. It'll be interesting going forward with so many subs on LAG's bench. Are we going to see Mental? Are we going to see Chino again? Are we going to see some of those guys that got exposure last year? But overall, I don't know. It just it changes the perspective of things, because I think power rankings wise, a lot of people had Paris like, all right, we'll put Paris at 12 and we'll see what happens. And then they won that match against London. And then they smoked Optic in scrims yesterday. So like now, where do you put Paris? Are they 6, 7, 12? It's just all up in the air. So it's a fun time because you don't really quite know where all these teams are, but it gives you something to look forward to once these home series start to happen.
Absolutely. Kingdom, would love to know your thoughts as well. I mean, I know you talked a little bit about like it broadly, but gameplay wise, what'd you notice from, any of the teams that played, or if you have any Rocker specific items, like let's talk it.
The best thing I noticed was Raid.
Yes, bro. I was so sad we didn't play it. Rocker didn't play it in this.
Like seeing Raid in the map set, getting to see, I think the first it was played was Control with New York and Dallas, but getting to see Raid just in the list of maps, it just brings back great memories. Like just awesome. And even of myself playing 8s back in Black Ops 2, like my whole mind goes back to, and I've been playing, Cold War, and so playing on that map is just fun. I thought a lot of teams played that map really well. And it's
classic.
It's just as competitive as it always was, right? Yeah. Like it's the map that, it was funny because my son was watching it and he plays Call of Duty Mobile with me, and he was like, that's the same, like exact same map. And I was like, yeah, often they reskin the maps or change them. I was like, but this is like, it's just a carbon copy, and we play it in Call of Duty Mobile as well. And so I was really happy to see that map. I thought I was looking over here because I highlighted some things because I have way too many notes. I thought Dallas's teamwork was really good, and that's to be expected. I've seen this narrative, and we've seen it before, kind of throw shade at Crim type of deal, and it even happened after the kickoff where people were talking about, because he didn't select, or Hastro didn't select Optic to be in their group. And so people were saying that Crim was scared of Optic or whatever. But I'm like, Crim is not scared of Optic. Like, at the end of the day, this is the winningest player we have in our esport. He's only one of 2 players that have won over $1 million in the history of playing this esport. And he won the last championship. He won the last champ. And
he's the GOAT, dude. Like, him,
no questions.
Yeah, Crim is the GOAT. I mean, my GOAT is Scump. But, like, if you're looking at the whole picture, my last thoughts, Crim, he's the winningest Call of Duty player of all time. What can you say? And I mean, the controversy at the end of last season with, it's Clay that left, and some people were like, well, maybe it should have been Crim. How can you say that? He's so good and he still maintains it. So I don't know. I thought it was awesome.
He is one of the, and I don't want to make this connection, because I will say that I am, of course, a huge fan of Seth. And I think he will go down as probably, his skill has maintained itself for so long in this esport. And when I talk about, that team, I was pleased with how well Scump was playing. And there was maps where it was like Scump and Formal, although they have, a lot of talent on that team with the other 2 players, like Scump and Formal were the ones kind of carrying the slaying role. And anytime you can get him to fry like that, it's a W for whatever team he's on, which is, of course, been Optic for a very long time. But I thought the teamwork by Dallas was really good. I think there is you could call Krim in a way the LeBron of our esport, because he is known for being a good leader. And that's, he just says it's all about how you practice. It's all about how you watch VODs. I mean, that's the same stuff we've been hearing recently from people that have played with LeBron in the NBA. And so I can't think you can overshadow Krim's value, and I'm not gassing him up or anything like that. I just think it's honest. I think that teams that he plays on historically, when they start to fail is when they fall apart and don't listen to what he says. And this is the last thing I guess I'll say about that. I was at CWL Seattle, was the last game of the dynasty when they were playing against LG, and they were losing, and it was like the lowest placing in the history of that team. And the entire time they were losing the last map to LG, Octane had a smile on his face because I think he knew he was going to be on that team soon. But Krim was shouting and still was giving direction to the team. And it was obvious that they were going to lose. It was obvious that Karma and Seth and Matt wanted nothing to do with this team anymore. But Krim was still doing his job. And that's why after they lost, he just got up and walked away. He was like, because for him, he just felt like, you guys stop trying. And that's the one thing you always get from somebody like Krim. That's the same thing that I think is why you saw what you saw from like Attach. And I think your guys' team, you have these players that I saw Priesta was on Crowder's podcast, and he was talking about how it was a big change for him going to Minnesota, and he had been with Crowder for 3 years, played with him, and then was coached by him for 2 years. And he was like, that's a huge, like Crowder has this mindset that his players tend to like, and he hadn't been coached by Brian Saint before, or, any of you guys' other coaches. And so, but Priesta said that it was helpful because the mix of roles that you guys have on your team, the mix of roles that are on the rocker, they actually gel. And, him and Attach are kind of more like kind of following the lead of the other guys on the team when it comes to being on the map. And I think it's working out for you guys. And I think that's why you ended up with the 3-2W. And I agree with what you said, Ashley, that winning is important. Even though if you guys would have lost, nobody would have said, oh, the RØKKR are worse than we thought. But winning is important whenever you can win. It's always important.
Confidence and fans getting hype. I love both those things.
Right. Skies and Fire. I didn't expect to see the fire that they brought, but I was impressed with both of those guys as individuals. Simp, he went off in some match, in some hard point that I was impressed with, but I think it was interesting that I heard that Simp actually said last year he did not play that well. For anyone else that exists that plays Call of Duty, if they played like Simp did last year, they'd be like, great. I mean, they had number one. That team had number one for everything, for KD, S&D KD, domination KD, hardpoint KD. They had the most points. They had the most wins, best map record. They didn't win in the end. They lost to Dallas. And I think with Arcides coming onto that team, they now have better leadership. But again, like I said earlier, even Crowder admitted they weren't playing right. They're so confident in their abilities, and old school Optic Gaming did this a lot. They're so confident in their abilities to.
I've seen this before.
Yeah, we've seen this story, and they get confident in their ability to outslay, and then everybody else catches up, and then they don't adjust. And we of course don't want to see that from the Atlanta FaZe, because they're a great team to watch play. I think that's all I've got for my gameplay takeaways. I found myself watching a lot. I will say again, Search just wasn't the same to me. It didn't capture my eye as much. You can't smoke across, you can't, and the maps are a little bit different than what we've had in the past.
Yeah, Checkmate Search gives me anxiety, man. What? Can we get standoff in here or Express?
Not spraying through walls in a plane for half the map.
Let's take Checkmate out back for Search
Yeah.
anyway. It's decent, I guess, for Control, but my goodness.
Oh yeah, Control. The casters were talking a lot about it. Everybody's been tweeting about it. Control is a big W compared to Domination.
I mean, not to be too brash, but anything's an improvement on Domination. What was that gridiron thing they were trying to put in World War II? I'd rather play that than Domination. I hope Domination never comes back. Infinity Ward, whoever's making the next COD, Sledgehammer, I don't know who it is. Please make a competitive mode viable that's not Domination. That's
Please.
request.
I have a question about control for all three of you, right? So you typically in past games when control has been in the competitive set, have you seen, do teams that tend to be good at hardpoint tend to be good at control as well? Does it lean S&D? Is it its own beast altogether? Where do you see those commonalities?
I think it's its own beast. I mean, it's most similar to hardpoint, and the teams that are very good at hardpoint are typically also pretty good at control. There's not typically a team who like sucks super bad at hardpoint, but they're always going to win that map 3. Like that's kind of a toss up. I think it's a great third mode because of that. Like it is a respawn, and there's great takes that you can utilize from respawn into from hardpoint into it, but especially now that because it's only been in one other Call of Duty, right? Black Ops 4. And that was 5v5. Now you have 4v4. It's all a little slower, and some people are like, "Oh, this is trash. Like control's trash on 4v4." But I tend to like it better because it makes it a little less respawn, fire dependent, and more strategy dependent, which is always welcome in competitive, in my opinion. That's my take. I'd love to hear. Let's rotate to the what do you think?
Well, I agree that teams that are normally good at hardpoint are also good at control. However, this game's a little bit different with control just because it worked out really well in Black Ops 4, mainly because of specialists. So like in this game, just for control purposes, like the bomb sites are always closer to the defenders. Mm-hmm. So if you're guarding B bomb site or something and you get team wiped, you can still make your way back. And, so essentially to win a bomb site, you have to get like 2 team wipes to win a bomb site. So back in Black Ops 4, you could win that team fight. And then if you have a specialist, like if you have gravity spikes or something, as they get close, you could use those gravity spikes. You could then take that site and move to the next. Where in this one, it's much more defense-sided favorite. So
that's true.
That's kind of the big thing that I'm seeing so far is that a lot of times it comes down to who's going to get that defense. Like, so what I'm always looking at is, okay, so for example, if Minnesota comes out, they're on defense first, they take the first round, great. If they can in the second round win an offense, that map's basically chalked. Like they're like, all they have to do, if they're up 2-0, they just have to win one more defense. It's really tough to lose a defense in this game. So now streaks does help that a little bit, but it's just not quite like how in Black Ops 4 when you could just pop your specialist, have extra armor or whatever, win that site, rotate to the next. So it is a little bit different, but still, I mean, if you're able to slay out like you would in hardpoint, you're probably going to win that. I mean, it's just so teams that are good at hardpoint are also usually good at control, but it's just weird to see the variation in Black Ops 4 and this game and how it's just a little bit different in that regards.
I think so. I took note of like there was a time when Illy clutched like round 3 in control. Phase
Garrison, offense, right?
Huh?
Was he on offense then when he clutched up?
Yes, I believe so. Garrison control with Atlanta and Florida. Phase finished a 2v3 that was crazy. They brought a lot of hype. It made a hype moment. And then I also noted that like the Royal Ravens clutched up and 3-0'd versus Paris. And I think this game, in my opinion, with the 4v4, and you kind of touched on it, Ashley, like it creates clutch moments that you would really only find in Search, but in a game that's kind of similar to Hardpoint, but Hardpoint doesn't have the same kind of clutches. In Hardpoint, you clutch up by keeping people off the point, by catching rotation, by being in the right places, putting your AR in the right spots. Not as much as Modern Warfare, where you could just sit in a spot as an AR, but rotating is really important in Hardpoint. The clutches that I saw this weekend were not the ones that I loved. Weren't really from Search. from the Kickoff Classic. It was watching people clutch up in control, where it was like 2 lives remaining versus 4 lives remaining. I do think somebody mentioned that they need to change the way they do it, because they start with like 29 or something, but they don't tell you that the 4 people that are alive count as lives remaining as well. So when you see 0 lives remaining, you're like, why isn't the match over? But it's like, well, there's 4 more lives. And so, but I think the clutches that Control is going to bring this year are going to be really good. So to IKON's point, yeah, sure, if you're good in hardpoint, you'll be good at slaying in Control. But when it comes down to the end of a round, it's just like Search. If the lives are kind of equal, it's just like Search and Destroy. And even when a team is blowing out another team, it's not as boring as Dom, because it ends quickly. We're not waiting for these ticks and waiting for, it's obvious they lost, but we got to wait 3 more minutes. Like in Control, it's like we get to at least watch them just slay out, and that's entertaining.
I think too, like on the Black Ops 4 kind of note, Control, I might be in the minority here, and I do like, there's part of me that thought, yes, specialists and the Grav Slam and all that stuff made for an exhilarating viewership experience. But to me, especially playing it, everyone's getting their power up around the same time. There's a bunch of back and forth with, no, I retake it with this special thing, and then you retake it with this. No, give me the clutch factor. Give me the gunfight. Give me Priesta in a 1v3, and he just murks everybody. That is what I love to see. I'm very biased. I'm old school. I don't know what you guys think. Brett, what's your impression of just how like Control works as a game mode? Obviously over Domination it's better, but do you think, like, kind of looking at it from the outside, and obviously you're a veteran now, right? You've helped recruit rosters, you've watched a ton of COD, but from the outside, you're looking at these 3 different game modes. Do you think that they differentiate each other enough for like a new fan to come in, or is it too confusing? They're like, wait, what's with the lives? Like, do you think Control's harder to understand or easier to understand?
Well, one of the reasons I really like it from a viewership standpoint is the concept is very simple, but there's a lot of nuance and strategy to it. And that's something that I'm personally looking forward to learning more as the season goes on, is of the strategic nuances. And I already asked Jake to do a little Control 101 for me. Like I played a fair amount of it in the off season just to learn the mode a little bit. But I'm fascinated by learning more about the strategy that the pros take, and everything that goes into it. But yeah, clearly it's a better viewer experience than Domination, and I agree with everything you guys are saying. Like there are those clutch moments. I like it in part because it does have a little bit of what personally I like about Hardpoint, along with what I like about watching S&D just from a viewership perspective. So I think it'll be a great addition, and it'll just adds to the good momentum for this season coming up.
Right.
I'm just going to throw this in here, and you might hate this remark, but I'm telling you, going into next year, just for 1 year, give me jetpacks and let me play uplink. I think
I'm down with that. I'm down with
you're
that.
You're an AW2 fan, aren't you?
Dude, I thought uplink was one of the coolest modes that we've ever seen. Just the fact that you could throw this ball and try to make it in the hoop, and all of a sudden somebody gets up and picks it off, and now they're running the other way. I don't know. That's another game. Like, for instance, like Control at times can be kind of hard to understand if you're somebody that's new to the game. But like if you're playing uplink, you're just trying to dunk a ball or shoot it in a goal. Like everybody knows how that works. So I don't know. I loved uplink. I didn't necessarily love jetpack games, but just watching it from a viewership standpoint, I thought it was amazing.
Dude, the throwing the ball, I thought that was so cool. And like you said, getting picks. Listen, we've had, the problem was, for those that don't know, we have boots on the ground in Call of Duty for what felt like forever. It's classic. It's childhood, even though I was like 19 when I got in COD. Never mind. I'm old. Then you had 3 years straight of jetpacks. If they hadn't had 3 years straight, I don't think there would have been as much backlash. I mean, especially like, after 2 years, and then Infinite Warfare trailer comes out. GG, bro. Oh my God, man.
We had like what? 4 of the best titles all back to back to back, and then we went to Jetpacks, and or after Ghosts, we went to Jetpacks, and then it kind of like we were like, yeah, this is cool because it's different. And Ghosts, a lot of people complained about, even though the S&D was good, but it's like, and then it just kept going and kept going and kept going. And somebody said on some podcast, people as esports fans liked IW because that was when Optic got their championship. And it's like, you can't really hate on that.
But that's the only good thing about
that's what I'm saying. Outside of that, it was like, for most people, they were like, yeah, we didn't really like it. Like, we didn't like watching it, but Optic was frying and they won finally, so it's like, that's great, thumbs up. But I agree with you, Icon. Uplink was so fun to watch. I mean, if you think about highlights of best COD plays, there's always going to be a couple of those Uplink plays where somebody's stealing a shot, ridiculous comeback when a team is down by 9 points and they come back and just run the train on the other team. Like, it was entertaining.
That FaZe team with Zuma and Attached, and I think Clay, that was the most exciting uplink
so fast.
you've ever seen, bro. Brett, we'll have to. I think probably coming up this offseason, we'll get bored and we'll have to dive back into some of those cool moments and just look ahead at some of that. But we do only have a little bit of time left here. I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about groups. Obviously, we will actually be having another episode of this in less than a week on Tuesday, February 2nd. We will be live here at 7:30 p.m. on the RØKKR MN YouTube channel. And we'll also be, we're obviously renaming the podcast. We'll be putting it up on iTunes and Spotify and Anchor and all the places you can listen to podcasts. So that's when that'll happen. I think we'll probably do like the match preview. Like, we'll look at the whole schedule. But for now, let's take a look at these groups. They had the group selection segment, which it was kind of funny. Like, it was a little clunky because it was, well, maybe it wasn't clear to the viewership. Like, I knew they pre-recorded that. Like, that was recorded almost a week in advance.
Yeah.
And so people were giving Hector a hard time. Like, didn't they just see how Florida played? You know what I mean? Like, so that was a little weird. I wish they would do it live. I can't remember why they said they didn't. There's a good reason for it, obviously, if they didn't do it live. But I thought it was kind of cool. It's kind of a fluff piece to me, but I think it is important. It's going to happen at the beginning of each stage, as you're going to have team kind of quote unquote captains or personalities from the teams, show up and pick who they don't want to have in their group. Is that ringing true?
Kinda, yeah.
Kinda.
It's who they want in the other group.
Goes into the other group.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, like, if I pick first and I'm like, FaZe, go ahead into Group B, see you later.
Right.
Well, I was pumped to see where we slotted in there, right? I mean, we were outside of, the teams that are just generally considered to be top tier. We were the next team that was picked to go somewhere else. So
yeah, but I think that's
some respect.
I think it was by Hector too. It was either us or Florida, and he didn't have the recency bias of just seeing Florida demolish FaZe. And so he's like, and I think I even watched an Optic podcast where he talked about it. He's like, dude, I think RØKKR's better than Florida. Then Seth's like, yeah. And then Formal's like, no. So, it's kind of like to go back to at the beginning, like all these teams that are kind of in the middle, like, right. I think we're going to see another year where there's, leapfrogging first places. And, last year, 6 of 12 teams won a chip. We didn't. But, this year we could. I think we're well positioned. But let's look at the groups. So in Group A, and this is the group that we are in. I mean, they're all kind of equal groups, but let's go through them. Group A, Dallas Empire, G's, World Champions, Lord. LA Thieves coming into our group. They did not perform close to my expectations versus Optic, but I also didn't have high expectations for them. Yeah. So we'll see. Then us, obviously, best team in the league. Side note, I'm always going to predict RØKKR to win, even still on this new podcast. It's not RØKKR.
Yeah, you got Icon Kingdom. You might have to balance things out just a little bit.
You guys can if the team's looking rough, you can say, man, we need to do this better. And I'll be like, yeah, but we'll still win. So it'll be appreciated. And then the remaining folks in our group, London Royal Ravens, they looked tough and not in the best way. New York Subliners, shout out a scene. Seattle Surge in Group A. Seattle Surge, I mean, I feel bad to say it because I think Octane, he's kind of like, man, what's like an NFL player? He's like Like Matthew Stafford. Octane's like Matthew Stafford. Like, he's incredible player, probably better than Matthew Stafford, but he's just never had a good team around him, man. Like, get this guy some teammates. I'm sorry. I'm just being honest. So that's an interesting group. I actually think it's pretty tough. I mean, to have the world champions in your group for stage 1, that makes me sweat bullets. But when we look over at Group B here, Atlanta FaZe, geez, Optic Chicago, yikes. Formal on Texas internet, get out of here. Florida Mutineers, they looked great against FaZe. Toronto Ultra lost the battle for the North again. LA Guerrillas, they looked all right, better than I thought.
Better than Seattle.
Kind of on par with what I thought. And then Paris Legion over in Group B to finish it out. What do you guys think? We only have a couple more minutes. Brett, do you have a hard out at 3:30?
I mean, I can keep rolling for a little bit.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll chime in first just because you're kicking me off, and you all can chat more about the groups on next Tuesday's episode.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, look, obviously, I'm not going to provide the detailed breakdown that the three of you are, but I certainly watched every match this weekend, and it is interesting because I talked to the coaches right after the actual group selection that was recorded, and they felt like Group A was the harder group. And then the consensus seems to be after Kickoff Classic that Group B is the tougher one. But I mean, I'll say just from my perspective, I couldn't be more excited about the schedule that we have. And it's tough out of the gates, right? But I mean, what an amazing opportunity for our organization to have the first regular season match of the season against LA Thieves in their first ever CDL match. Like, the hype for that will be amazing. And then our second match is in one of those primetime Sunday slots against the defending champion. So, I mean, it's a great test out of the gates to show, to show what we're about as a team. But for our organization, and just in terms of building hype and relevancy, could not have asked for a better schedule from that standpoint.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's a testament to, I don't know if it's our lineup, the hype they bring, the skill set, our marketing ability. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a combination of everything, but I mean, it's like you've said, Brett, the league and how they decide these time slots and these matchups, they don't just throw everything in a hat and figure it out. These are strategic, and it's a massive feeling of respect and gratitude that we're in a good position. We kick off the league on Thursday, February 11th at 2 p.m. Central Time. I'm so excited to watch. We'll break down the schedule more on the next episode on Tuesday at 7:30. Let's get can you guys give me like a 60-second impression, each of you, of our groups? What are you thinking? Are they split down the middle? Did we get the easier group? Who knows? What do you guys think?
I guess I'll go real quick. I think you guys got the easier group. I think the fact that Atlanta, Chicago, and Florida, you could easily put those as the top 3 teams in the game. And we don't know yet. Obviously, Dallas would be in there and Minnesota would be in there, stuff like that. But if you're looking at your group overall, you guys won, Dallas won, everybody else lost. And Paris, just from what I've seen in the last week, is looking really good. Toronto is always competitive. Cammy and Kleenex are just unbelievable.
My goodness.
Skies could be MVP this year with Florida. I mean, so when I'm looking at the teams that are in your group, we're not quite sure what to expect out of Seattle. New York, of course, has subs all over the place. Hydra's not there yet, so they're pulling up Diamond Con. I mean, that's kind of, who knows what's going on with that situation. You never know what you're going to get out of LA Thieves. Kenny, one game can drop a 2.0, the next game could drop a 0.6. So for me, I think that matchup against Dallas is really gonna show where Minnesota's at. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I think it should be a great start to the year heading into that first major.
I think you guys have a huge opportunity to be 1 or 2 in your group going into that first major. I will say though that everything IKON just said is the one thing I would be worried about. These teams are more unpredictable than the other teams. And so
valid.
We're talking about Clayster, who had thousands of, 1,400 days or whatever without a championship. And then it's like, I'm going to, go back to back real quick. And then I'm going to get on a new title and I'm going to win another champion. I think he money wise is second on the list for winnings, and so you don't know. Are the Seattle Surge going to get it together? Because technically, they have a good roster, you know. So if they can figure out the team chemistry, they could be a problem. LA did not play to the potential of that team. If they do, they're going to be more competitive. So, I mean, and even London, they're getting Parasite now. How's that going to work out? You know, it really, that is, I would say your group is more unpredictable than the other group. Predictably, yes, you got the easier group. I will say, though, to go off of the group part, Brett, phenomenal job. Like, this was called, rest in peace to the show, Building Minnesota RØKKR. What you guys have built is the reason that last year everybody had you number 4 going in. This year, everybody has you number 4 going in. Well, between you and Florida, but that is something to be proud about. Like, we're talking about Envy, Optic, and FaZe, the predictable number 3, and have been ever since the CDL started with their different names. Those 3 orgs that have been around for eons. And then you guys come in and you're like, everybody's like, yeah, the Minnesota RØKKR, just, you can't underestimate that team. They're well coached. They play well. They have good fundamentals. And I think what you guys have built is awesome. And I would say, you know, at the end of the day, you know, tip my hat to you, because I think this team last year, I was really excited about the RØKKR. The second half of the season just didn't go as planned. But coming into it, other pro teams were saying, yeah, I'd say the RØKKR are number 4. This year, same thing. Other pro teams are saying, yeah, we scrimmed them. They're pretty good. You know, they're going to be that team that predictably is going to do well. They could not do well, but predictably they're going to do well. So I'd say big ups to you guys. And I think the group's divided out fairly even.
Appreciate those kind words. And I mean, our coaches have done a great job. You know, last year, Ashley did a great job leading our free agency effort. Our coaches took that over this year, and really, I mean, it was an amazing the way we actually got the 4 that we wanted from day one in free agency. I mean, really, even, you know, I don't think we even thought we'd have a chance at Priest, and the way Jake and Brian were able to recruit the 4 that we've got now and have been coaching them up for the last few months. It's, you know, like Ashley said at the start, it was a lot of fun just to see those guys in, you know, competing with the RØKKR jerseys on in the game. You know, with all the RØKKR branding on Codcaster, like we've been watching them in, like you guys are saying, we've been watching them in scrims, watching them in off-season tournaments, but there was something special seeing that foursome in the game together for the first time. And it'll be even more special come February 11th against LA Thieves to start the season.
Man, we're going against Nate Shot's team. You told me like 5 years ago, hey, yeah, you're going to work with a CDL franchise based in Minnesota, and you're going to be playing Nate Shot's team. I'd be like, are you on drugs? What are you talking about? No way. No, it's a surreal feeling, and yeah, I'm just super excited. All right, that is going to be the end of Building Minnesota RØKKR. It is over. Brett, you are kicked off. Just kidding.
It's been fun. Maybe I'll crash an episode every once in a while, but for those who want the nerdy take on things, we will be getting the esports business podcast started up. We got to figure out a name. Annie told me I have to think of the name, so stay tuned on that.
Oh man, I hope there's one of the whiteboard walls in the facility there. I hope you've got.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there you go. Take a picture of that. Brett, I've loved doing this podcast with you. Building Minnesota RØKKR. We truly built Minnesota RØKKR. We documented it, and it's a special podcast for year one of our franchise and our organization. So all the episodes are going to stay where they are, and now we're turning to a new chapter next week. February 2nd at 7:30 p.m. Central Time, we will be live with The Rotation, a Call of Duty and Call of Duty League focused podcast. Let me know on Twitter at MidnightMN or at RØKKR. Tweet, who do you want to see as a guest? I'm starting to ask around. Maybe we'll get some cool people. I don't know. We'll see. I want to get some cool people on, entertain you guys. That podcast will be available anywhere you can listen to podcasts, and it will be launching on February 2nd. And it's on this channel as well. So anyway, thank you guys so much for listening, watching. Shout out Shannon, producing. Shout out everybody. This has been awesome. Well, have a good day. Catch y'all later.
Adios.